Spousal or common law partner sponsorship is one of the most common applications for permanent residence in Canadian immigration. Given the extent of this application and the long checklist, oftentimes folks find it challenging to prepare a spousal sponsorship application. What are the documents required? What is the checklist? How to comply with all the requirements and how to make sure you submit a complete application? We're going to cover all of that in this video, so stay tuned until the end. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Dhruv. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. At our firm Effizient, we assist all prospective immigrants with their immigration to Canada. If you are an immigrant, if you are looking to sponsor your spouse, if you are looking to sponsor your common law partner, here is our contact information. Feel free to contact us. You can call us, email us, WhatsApp us, and we would be happy to chat with you. Now, before we go into the details of spousal sponsorship and the checklist, let's quickly answer the comment of the week. Now, this comment comes from Abdul. The question is, I completed a 1-year study program and I will likely receive a 1-year postgraduate work permit, which I've already applied for. Now, is there a way to extend the duration of this work permit while I'm on applied status? I have a full-time job. Can that help in extending the duration of my PGWP? This is an excellent question. And the answer to this question is this. The length of the PGWP is determined by the length of your study program. That is the governing factor. There is no other factor that determines the length of your postgraduate work permit. If you are working, you may be doing a very good job right now, but that has nothing to do with regards to the length of your PGWP. So unfortunately, there's not much you can do to extend the length. The only thing that determines the length of your postgraduate work permit is the length of your study program. I hope this helps. Now guys, let's go over how to prepare a complete application for sponsoring your spouse. Again guys, in this video, we're going to specifically go over the checklist for spousal sponsorship. This is not the checklist for common law partner sponsorship, although majority of the documents are same. However, just to put it out there, this one is for spousal sponsorship. Now here on the screen, you can see the checklist for spousal sponsorship. This checklist is called IMM 5533. This checklist is an important part of your spousal sponsorship application. This is a checklist you need to follow. You need to make sure you complete this checklist. You include the documents required when submitting your spousal sponsorship application. So guys, let's go over this checklist and we'll go over all the documents one by one, and I'll explain what you require for that point in the checklist. This will hopefully help in preparing your application for your spousal sponsorship and hence thereby help you going forth. So the first question here is information about previous examinations. So guys, what this means. So if say that you applied for permanent residence and your spouse was previously examined, what they mean by examination is that they have completed a police clearance certificate that was submitted to IRCC. So IRCC has done the criminality check and they did the medical exam, and IRCC has done the medical check as well. So they have checked for inadmissibility for criminality or medical reasons. If all of that is done, then you will say yes to this. But if you've never, your spouse has never provided a medical or a police clearance certificate to IRCC, then you will say no to this question. Next is again, as a part of the application, the document checklist is required. So you will complete this particular checklist and you would upload that. Application to sponsor. Now this is a form 1344 that you need to complete. Again, this is one of the IMM forms. You have to complete it. You have to ensure that it's complete, it's signed, and you have to upload that. Application fee. So for the application, you have to pay the application fee and you have to upload the receipt. So all of this is good. So let's just continue to tick mark these things. Right to permanent resident fee. You can pay the fee now or at a later stage. This fee is refunded if say your application is refused. The RPRF will be refunded. However, again, it's your choice if you want to pay it upfront or you want to pay it later. Most people end up paying it upfront. just because they don't want or they want to think that there won't be any delays later on. Then comes the financial evaluation. Now guys, this won't be applicable if you are sponsoring your spouse. This is only required if your spouse has children. So if you're sponsoring spouse and dependent children, then this form is required. Otherwise, in most cases, if say you have a spouse and you don't have any kids, or spouse does not have any kids, then this form is not required. Class of application. So now here you have to select what class does the application fall in. If the spouse is in Canada and you are applying under the spouse in Canada class, or you're applying as under family class, you have to select one of the appropriate options here. So let's assume your spouse is outside Canada. You have married someone outside Canada. They're living in their home country. You are in Canada. In that case, it would be the family class. Then 0008, IMM 0008 is the main form for permanent residence. This is an online form that has to be filled in the online portal. You fill it and complete it. Country specific. So for every country, there may be some specific requirements. You go through this link over here. Once you go to this link, that's where you can find the requirements for your particular country. If there are any specific documents that are required, you have to list them here. If there are forms or documents, and you have to upload them in your application. If nothing is there, then you say not applicable. Additional family information. So this is again an online form. It's filled in the online portal. This has to be filled with the information about your spouse and family members that include siblings, parents. That information needs to go in. Then comes the background form. 5669, again an online form. It includes all the information about education, personal history, address history, everything about the applicant. Then comes the relationship evaluation, relationship information and sponsorship evaluation. So guys, this is a form which asks for information about the sponsor and also the applicant. And it will ask you about your relationship, about when you guys met, how long have you been living together. Everything about your relationship goes into this form. Details about the events that happened during your wedding, any ceremonies that were done, any functions, events that were organized, you will mention it in this particular form. Use of representative. So guys, if you are using services of a representative, then you would provide this. If you're not appointing, then you'll just say I'm not appointing a representative. Authority to release personal information. This won't be applicable unless you are authorizing some family member to apply on your behalf. So you can say not applicable here. Then comes the status in Canada. So this pertains to the applicant, right? So for example, this pertains to the sponsor. My apologies. For the sponsor, either they has to be a PR, permanent resident, or a Canadian citizen. So here, these are the two options. Either you are a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, and third is you are a native, which is also called an Indian. So if you are a permanent resident, you will provide a copy of your PR card or your COPR. If you are a Canadian citizen, you can provide Canadian citizen certificate, both sides, or your Canadian passport, copy of that. If you are a Canadian by birth, your birth certificate will also suffice. If you are an Indian, then you need to submit a copy of your Indian status card to show that you're registered in Canada as an Indian under the Indian Act. Okay. So guys, in most cases, either you are a PR or you are a Canadian citizen. So just go through these things and provide the required documents. Are you a sponsor living outside Canada? So guys, if you are a permanent resident living outside Canada, you are not eligible to sponsor your spouse. You have to be present inside Canada, living in Canada, if you want to sponsor your spouse. If you are a Canadian citizen who is living outside Canada, then you are eligible to sponsor your spouse, provided you have plans to come back to Canada once that sponsorship application goes through. So this is where they ask for this information. If you answered yes to this question, if you're living outside Canada as a Canadian citizen, then you need to provide proof that you will live in Canada with your spouse once they become a permanent resident. So you need to be able to prove that to immigration. Do you and the person you're sponsoring have any children. So if you have children, then you'll say, and they may have a claim to Canadian citizenships, then you say yes, otherwise you can just say no. In most cases, if you don't have children, then you just say no and move on. Information about previous relationships. So guys, if you have as a sponsor been married before or been in a common law before, you need to provide information about that, because IRCC wants to make sure that that relationship has concluded before you're sponsoring a new person. So here, if you have been married before, you will say, if you're currently married, then you'll say yes. If you are currently married, then you should again reevaluate whether you're eligible for sponsoring or not. So in most cases, you will say no to this question. Have you been previously sponsored? If you were sponsored before, then you will say yes to this question. If you as a sponsor were sponsored for PR by someone, and then you are sponsoring your particular spouse, uh, then you'll say yes. If say you became PR under the economy class and you are sponsoring your spouse, then again you'll say no to this question. Have you been previously married? If you've been married, then you have to provide the details about your previous relationship. If not, then say no. Have you ever been in common law? So again, common law is cohabiting in a conjugal relationship for 1 year. So if you've done that, then you'll say yes. Otherwise, you'll say no. Source of income. Okay, guys, this is very important. So a lot of you guys ask what funds is required. What do I need to show in order to sponsor my spouse, my husband, or my wife? Very simple. You need a letter of employment from your current employer and your previous year's notice of assessment. That's it. So here you can see if you're currently working in Canada, you'll provide an original letter from your current employer and one of the document issued by CRA, and that is your most recent notice of assessment. These two documents will suffice. If you're not currently working, then you need to show other proof that you have enough money, you have source of income, or you have enough funds to support your spouse when they become a permanent resident. So this is where they talk about all of that. Identity document. So now comes the sponsored person who is the principal applicant. So the sponsors documents are over. Now comes the documents for the applicant, that is going to be your spouse if you are the sponsor. Identity documents. So again, passport, that's pretty straightforward. Birth certificate is required for this application, so make sure you have it prepared if you're planning on applying for spousal sponsorship. If if the person who is applying, that is the sponsor's spouse, is living in Canada, then you need to provide proof of their status. That could be a visitor visa or visitor record, that could be a work permit, that could be a study permit, whatever that status is, you have to provide. And then if the country specific requirements need you to provide a national identity card or family booklet, then you will provide that. Otherwise, in most cases, neither of the above applies. Civil status. So this is your marriage. So if you're married, then you will provide information about your current marriage, that is your marriage certificate. If you were in previous relationships, then you have to provide information about that. You have to provide documents, say a divorce certificate from the previous marriage or annulment, to showcase that that relationship has ended. Otherwise, you can say none of this applies to me if you've never been in a previous relationship. This is about children. So if you have children, so if say that you're sponsoring spouse and spouse has children, and depending on the age of the children, you have to provide the documents. If this does not apply, just write not applicable in front of this section. Then comes the police certificate. So guys, you need a police certificate for every country you've lived in after 18 years of age, or in the last 10 years for 6 months or more in a row. So if your spouse is back in India, for example, and they are living there since the age of 18, they're currently there, you need a police certificate. If your spouse is currently in Canada, they came from India at the age of 25, then from 18 to 25 they were living in India, and now their age is 27, they still need a police clearance certificate because they have lived in India for 6 months or more. So make sure you have arrangements for the police certificate. So this is a very simple requirement. If you've lived in a country for 6 months or more in a row after the age of 18, provide a police certificate. Canadian police certificate, guys, is not required upfront, and If they need it, they will ask for it, but don't waste your money and time trying to get an RCMP clearance. You don't need it for this application. Military service. So if you've done military service, then you'll say yes, and you have to provide some additional information about the military service. If you've never done military service, then this does not apply, say no. Photograph, it's very simple. Photograph that meets the PR specs, you need to provide that. Medical exam is not required upfront. If you have done a medical exam, then you can provide it. If not, then you don't need to provide. You can say never done medical. They will request for a medical exam later on. Now guys, this part here, proof of relationship to sponsor, is the most important part of this application. Proving that you are in a genuine relationship is the basis for this application for spousal sponsorship. How can this be done? So let's see. If you and your spouse are currently living together, if the answer is no, then you need to provide proof that you are in contact. So provide uh, the proof of communication between the two of you, WhatsApp chats, text messages. Now again, if you have been married for the last year, 2 years, there may be so much of chat that has happened between the two. You can go ahead and provide all the chat logs, but it's not necessary. What you can do is provide a screenshot snippet from every month to showcase that you're in regular communication. Then comes proof of sponsors visits. So at any time, if the sponsor has visited the applicant, so say if you are the sponsor, you visited your spouse, or your spouse has visited you, those time together, you can provide those proofs. So air travel tickets and any other travel itineraries can be provided here. Now the second part is, if you are living together, then you need to provide proof that you're living together. So the easiest is either the rental agreement, or if you're jointly owning a property, proof of joint ownership. You can provide a copy of government ID. So if you are living together, both of your government IDs will have that address. You'll provide that. If you have a shared vehicle insurance, you can give that. That showcases that you are both added in the policy. Joint utility, if you have a joint utility account, electricity, hydro, water, gas account, you could provide that, or a joint credit card account, or a joint bank account, to showcase that you are living together. If you do not have any of these, then other documents that they allow could be documents from non-joint accounts, could be your credit card bills, bank statements that showcase the same address. Even though if the accounts are not joint, you could still provide that, and one document from each person will prove that you're living together. And of course, if you cannot provide two of these documents, so you need to provide two of the documents listed here. So two boxes must be checked, and if you're not able to check the two boxes, then you have to give explanation that why you don't have those documents. Again, if you don't have it, give a reasonable explanation that maybe you just moved in together, or you not changed the addresses, or your IDs are still in the process of being changed. You cannot provide it. Depending on what the situation is, you have to give a reasonable explanation. If you need assistance, you can contact us, and we would be happy to help you. Do you and your spouse have any children together? Now, if the answer is yes, you'll say yes, and then you have to provide a copy of the birth certificate. If the answer is no, then you move ahead. Is this a first marriage? If this is a first marriage, you'll say yes. If you've been married before, you'll say no. Have you and your sponsor been married for a minimum of 2 years? If your marriage is older than 2 years, you'll say yes. Otherwise, you'll say no. Now, guys, here is the catch. From A to D, if your answers to all the questions are yes, then you stop here. You don't need to move any further. You don't need any further proof. That means if you are living together, if you have kids together, that is, you are currently living together, that's a yes. If you have kids together, that's a yes. If this is your first marriage and you've been married for 2 years or more, then that's it. You don't need to provide any further information. No further proof is required. IRCC is already convinced that you're living together, you have kids together, this is your first marriage, and you have been married for more than 2 years, your marriage must be genuine. um, but if the answer is no for any of those questions, in most cases that is the case, then you just need a few more proofs. So you need to provide proof of wedding, so photographs from your wedding. So here please try to cover photographs from different wedding functions, and also cover photographs from your functions in which other people are present, to showcase that it was a public event, people were invited, and society knows about your wedding. It does not look like something that was done in behind closed curtains, as that raises suspicion for IRCC. And then along with that, you need to provide any two of the following documents. um, so it could be, say, some documents that showcase your spouse as a beneficiary in an insurance policy, or it could be financial support. So if you have a joint account, or you have sent money to each other in the past, could be interact transfers, you can provide that. Other proof that your relationship is recognized could be support letters from your friends or family members. If you're providing support letters, try to provide support letters from either both sides, so from the sponsor's family or friends, and also from the applicant's family and friends. And if you have cohabited in the past, if you've lived together in the past, some proof proving that. If you're not able to provide two of the above documents, then provide explanation. Of course, if you have the information you're able to provide, then no need for any explanation. And that's it, guys. That's how you will prove your relationship. And once you're done, then you will just check mark all these forms that are required. The forms that require signature must be signed. The forms that do not require signature must be signed electronically, that is, you put your name in there. And once that is done, then your application is ready. So that's it, guys. In summary, we've talked about all the documentation that is required. We've gone through the checklist for the spousal sponsorship application. We've talked about everything that is required. If you watch this video again and again, or from top to bottom, you will get a clarity with regards to what documents, what information must be included. Of course, it's a detailed application, so you still may have doubts, or there may be specific doubts that you have with regards to your case. We cannot cover every case in a single video. If you need assistance, definitely contact us. Here is our contact information. We would be happy to help you with your spousal sponsorship application. Thanks a lot, guys. I hope you found this video helpful. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you are notified about any new video that we upload. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video.